still chasing fire through the years half slow. Weights on my back, sweat in my eyes. Old man's fight never says die. Old man on the mat, still standing tall. One more round, yeah, I've heard it all. Grip the edge, don't let it slip. Strength in the soul, strength in the grip.
Hey, Old Man on the Mat crew, this is Tony Jones coming at you with another great episode of Old Man on the Mat. But before I get started, let me do a huge shout out to North Bay Cigar Company out of Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. They sent us out some amazing cigars. You guys know, if you follow me for a while, you know I love a good bourbon and I love a good cigar. And you know, one thing I really love about their handmade cigars, it was a tight roll, not too tight, not too loose, a tight roll, very slow burn. I love a slow burn because a lot of times, you know, you get a cigar, you'll puff on it for a while, you'll sit it down, you'll go do some other stuff, and you come back, you have to relight the thing. And that's okay. If you do that, that's fine, as long as the cigar tastes great. Who cares how many times you got to light it? But these guys, I sat the cigar down, I went some stuff at the grill, hung out with some friends, sipped on some bourbon with some friends, and came back and the cigar was still lit. And I love that, man, because they're hand rolled. And what these guys do, they bring the cigar rolling experience to you. They travel nationwide. They'll do special events, birthdays, bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, and some quinceañeras. I'm throwing that in myself because hint, hint, I got some buddies who's about to go through that right now. So guys, get these guys. It'll be a great experience to do that. They also, you can find some of their handmade cigars in some of their local breweries out there in the Emerald Coast. And they also are bringing up, they're going to start doing a members-only cigar lounge. I love cigar lounges, man, just kicking back with some friends and puffing away. Some of them have your BYOB. I think those are great, too. But, guys, check these guys out. They're certified, veteran-owned. They do a first-class experience. Hit them up at northbaycigar.com, northbaycigar.com, 850-880-8009. Let them know that Tony sent you, all right? This is more than just a cigar. It's an experience. All right, guys? So, guys, with that, I am very excited. I'm very stoked about our next guest that's coming on. And one thing about, I think this guy is really cool because, yes, you guys listen to some of my episodes out there. I enjoy talking to everybody, but I always get a special place in my heart when I talk to guys who've had multiple skill sets. You know, multiple different martial arts. They blended them all together and did a great system. But this guy, he's a Krav Maga instructor. He owns Defensive Fighting Systems. He's been doing Krav Maga for 17 years. He's also a personal trainer and a nutrition coach, which I need a lot of that. Okay, I need a lot of that. He owns Cardio Kickboxing Center. He's out there in Connecticut, guys. He also did some Sambo, which, as I talked before, I'm really getting into Sambo quite a bit. I love it. He does catch wrestling, and he's done some BJJ. So, guys, with that, let me give you Christopher Ryan. How you doing out there, brother?
How we doing, brother? What's going on?
Everything. I do a lot of talking. I talk a lot anyway, but man, that intro talk is a lot.
I know. I've been there. I get it. I got a podcast. I get it.
So you know what I'm talking about, man. But man,
Sure.
I'll tell you, it's good to connect with you finally, man. I know we did some bouncing around a little bit on Instagram and all that stuff, and talking to you, those little things. You have a lot to talk about, man. So, you know, how'd you get started in Krav Maga, man? Where'd that come from? Because that's the Israeli fighting system, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes, that is correct. It is the Israeli fighting system that was developed for the Israeli, military, so they could train their citizens. Because in Israel, from what I understand, it is a law that all citizens have to be in the military for at least 1 year of their life.
Yes, I heard. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I heard that.
This was a system that was developed by a gentleman named Emi Lichtenfeld, and he was a Hungarian refugee who fled from the Nazis, and he had a wild life, and he wound up in Israel training the military there. So it was something that was developed over years. I mean, if anybody knows anything about special forces, the Israeli, their special forces are some of the best in the world.
They're no joke, man.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason why I got involved with it was, I'm an older guy. That's why I'm on this show, on this podcast today, And, I started training in MMA a little bit later. I mean, I was in my early 30s when I first started doing it. And I realized, look, I'm old. I'm not going to be in the UFC. I'm a little too old for it. But there was something that happened up in the Northeast that scared the hell out of me. And there was this thing called the Cheshire Home Invasion, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was these two guys. They followed this woman home from a bank, and they broke into their house and did some unbelievably horrible things to this family, burned the house down, killed everybody, and it just scared the hell out of me, because at the time, I was just getting married, just becoming a father, and I was like, this is real life. Like, this can happen to people. So I
Yeah.
was like, I want to gear my training towards something that's more in line with self-defense for real life attacks. So, I had first started in MMA, did a little bit of jujitsu, not in the gi. And then when I moved up here from New York in 2009, and then that's how I found Krav Maga. I joined a school called Connecticut Krav Maga. I took one class and I was in, because
Really?
yeah, it was incredible, because I'd done all the MMA classes in previous years, but then my first Krav Maga class was at a school called Connecticut Krav Maga, owned by a gentleman named Tom Bacha. And the first class, we were doing multiple attacker drills, and I was in the middle, and it was 3 minutes on a clock, and I had to fight my way out
Oh,
with like 8 people surrounding me with pads.
yeah, yeah.
And let me tell you something. It was one of the most grueling things I've ever been through. At the end of it, I made it through. I made it to the bathroom, and I was like, please don't puke. Please don't puke. Not day one. Not day one. Now, I thought my training in MMA was grueling. This
Yeah.
was a completely different ball game. And I realized right there and then, like, there's a lot of holes in my game here. So I was in just like that. So
That's pretty cool. That's
that's,
intense, man.
yeah,
But
pretty
that
intense. Yeah.
that is cool that you started one. And if you've heard some of my things before, I have a strong belief. Like my instructor, who I first started, my first black belt was in Kodokan Jiu Jitsu, and what his philosophy was, he always believed that every art has holes in it. Every style has to have some holes, right? So his philosophy is, you find a foundation. You found one that's your foundation. You get a good solid basing in that, and then you branch out and fill those holes. And it sounds like what you were doing when you found Krav Maga after doing some MMA. You start filling some of those holes.
Right, because like I said, I wasn't looking to go pro.
Yeah.
I was a little too old for that. But, I really wanted to be able to defend myself the best way possible. And, I want to be able to protect my family. So, like I said, that Cheshire Home Invasion, like, really left a mark on me, scared the hell out of me. So that's what geared me toward that.
Yeah.
And I had, like, as I was younger, I wrestled in school, and I always come back to grappling in a way. Um, I know Krav Maga is the main form that I teach, but I train in multiple different forms of grappling, because I feel it's extremely important in self defense to be able to be versed in both of them.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Reason
100%.
being is a lot of attacks or fights wind up on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
Krav Maga, one of our rules is get up on your feet, stay on your feet, But if you don't know how to fight on the ground, you're not going to be able to get up from the ground.
Good
So
point.
that's why I infuse so much grappling, catch wrestling, sambo, BJJ into my teaching, because I feel that it's extremely important. It'll make you a more well-rounded, Kravist, or someone in self-defense.
And you're right, man. You have to, man. You have to learn how to diversify. You have to be expand out and fighting anyway. That's really cool, man. Now, as you were growing up, you said you did some wrestling and stuff. So let's back up. I know I jumped ahead a little bit. Let's back up. Tell me your story. How did you get started? Were you one of those guys when you were a little kid that someone just beat up on and you're like, one day I'm going to learn how to fight?
I grew up in a neighborhood in New York that was kind of tough, and you had to be able to defend yourself, or you would get eaten alive. So, in my neighborhood, you really couldn't show weakness, and, you had to show heart, you know? Um, so from a very young age, I was like, all right, it's go time, and, I got on the wrestling team in ninth grade, and, stuff there, but, it was very humbling, wrestling is a very humbling thing. And, but to me, I think it's the best initial framework for any martial art.
Agree.
That's just my opinion.
You know what? I agree with that, man. Because you look out there and you're seeing all these high level, like Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, a lot of these MMA fights, everything. All these guys have a strong wrestling foundation. And I've always believed wrestling is probably one of the most brutal sports out there, man. These guys are monsters, dude. Monsters, you know?
I mean, look at why all these Dagestani, fighters are just cleaning up, because that's their framework. They
Yep.
start out with wrestling and
Yeah.
sambo,
Yeah.
and if that's your base for everything, you're going to be dominant,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
You know what? I like to say my opinion, my humble but accurate opinion. So you were raised in New York. I hear that accent in your voice.
Well, it's funny because like I always think I moved out of New York and live in Connecticut, so like I always feel like I've done a good job of hiding it. Clearly, I have not.
Right, right.
But it's the Northeast. Everywhere from Jersey all the ways up to Boston, there's a thick accent.
Yeah.
Even the people in Connecticut have it too. I'm still surrounded by them. But I don't know. I mean, growing up in New York, um, it depends on where you are. I mean, everywhere from the five boroughs to Long Island. That's where I've lived for the most part in New York. Long Island is a strange place. You got a lot of wealthy folk. You got a lot of poor folk. You could have people in the same town where there's millionaires, and then there's kids who come from a neighborhood like mine that was on the lower scale. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just I didn't know any different. It's a place where, like I said, like you had to be able to hold your own, or you would get eaten alive.
Yeah. They say that, man, because I was born and raised Southside Chicago. You know what I mean? And inside Chicago, most people say they're from Chicago. They're talking about a suburb of Chicago. I was born and raised inside Chicago, so yeah, there's a lot of that, man. You get eaten alive, or you're fought. It is what it is. But I always look at New York and think, you guys are survivors, and you guys are grinders. You're survivors. You get out there and make whatever happen, man. Was that your whole mindset growing up as you were a little kid, getting into adulthood? Was it just, man, I had to grind it out, man? I'm a survivor.
Absolutely. I knew I'm the youngest of six kids, and my parents had decided they were moving away when I was a young guy.
Oh,
And,
man.
I was kind of left on my own from a pretty young age, but I had to figure it out. There were times in my late teens where I was living on the streets, and I had to figure out pretty quickly. All right, man, we got to figure this out. This living on the street thing is not going to work. So you got to get a job. You got to keep a roof over your head, and survivor is definitely part of my description of myself, I would say. you know
Get it.
I've been sober 15 years. It's also a big part of my story.
Praise God, man. Awesome.
I lived a pretty wild life in my earlier years of my life in New York. Like I said, some of it, I was homeless when I was in my late teens, and figured out pretty early, this is how you're going to have to take care of yourself. But when I did decide to get sober, things changed in my life, and it changed because I said, I'm done with this. I'm not living this lifestyle anymore. So I went head first into a different kind of life, which was fitness and self-defense and fighting.
Wow. Okay.
And, to me, that's the ultimate survivor. Anybody who can get through addiction, come out the other side, and then go into this kind of life. Well, yeah, that to me that's a survivor.
Yeah. Man, that's a man from homeless to addiction. Now, if you don't mind me digging into that a little bit, how was it like being homeless, living on the street, and and what was your quote unquote drug of choice, that made you, fall off?
I like to say I'm a garden variety drunk. Alcohol
Okay.
was my drug of choice.
Okay.
Yeah, I dabbled with stuff, other stuff, but I was a drunk. And being on the street sucked. I mean, I wasn't in New York City at the time. I was on Long Island, and it wasn't any more fun out there. It's times where I spent time in shelters and stuff like that, and they're pretty rough places to be in. But it definitely not a fun time in my life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I bet, man. I bet. Now, you said one day you said it's enough of this. What was that? You dive into that mindset of coming from, you're in this hole, quote unquote, you know what I mean, this lifestyle hole, to say, screw this. I had enough. I had enough. And you change.
The actual moment that it
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
Well, I was in a blackout, and I woke up in a jail cell at Bridgeport County Correctional Center, And when I came to, I saw a bright light in front of me and a bunch of gang members standing over me going, "You all right, man?" And I went, "Where the hell am I?" And it was that moment that I said, "I'm done. It's over."
Wow. Wow. Didn't have no memory of anything. You just woke up and there you are.
I kind of knew how it started,
Yeah.
but there was a day there that I lost completely. Yeah.
Could have gone the wrong way. You could have not woken up, but waking up and did you make that decision to say this is enough and you stuck with it? Was it a going forward and backwards a
No,
little bit?
from that moment on, the last 15 years, I haven't touched a drop of alcohol.
Wow. That is, man, just that right there is so New York. You know what I mean? You have that kind of drive and grit to say, I'm done. And you walk away from it. So, what did you do to start getting yourself back on track then? From the moment you walked out of that cell, what did you do?
Well, I mean, immediately, I went to rehab. So I got arraigned and I got let out. And as soon as I got picked up on my wife, I just looked at her. I said, "I'm going to rehab today." And she said, "Okay, we'll book you flights." And that day, I was on a flight to Jacksonville, Florida, and I went to a rehab down there in that area. Spent almost 2 months in that place. It saved my life, and that was the beginning stages of my path of sobriety.
And it says a lot right there. You just mentioned that your wife picked you up, and she stuck with you through all of
Yeah, that was my kid's mom. We've since divorced, but I'm glad to say that her and I are still very, very good friends.
it.
It's
That's
just,
cool.
you know, life after I'd gotten sober, I changed a bit. So,
Yeah.
we didn't really make it, but she's still a good woman. She's the mother of my kids.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome, man. That's almost like a fairy tale story in essence, man. You know what I mean? That she stuck with you. You pulled yourself out of that. Now, when you came out of rehab, what was your next step? Tell us the story. What's your next step?
Well, it didn't get any better. My first year of sobriety was pretty rough because, the day that I got home from rehab, I had a probation officer at the time who wasn't a nice guy. He came right to my house. He locked me up for leaving the state. And then right from there, I went to jail. So I spent like a couple months in jail. And then after I got out, that's when I started going to meetings and really taking everything in the program. AA, well, I'm going to just say AA was what I was involved with, but I took everything they said seriously. At that point in my life, you could have told me to dye my hair purple if I had any, and run around the house 10 times a day, and that'll keep you sober. I would have done it. I would do anything that anybody would tell me to stay sober. So I just took it really, really seriously, and I did that for a number of years.
Do you think that is it that you made it out because you took it seriously? You took what they were giving you as law. This is going to help me. And most of those guys don't take it as serious.
Yeah, or they just haven't lost enough.
Mm.
For me, I lost everything. I lost my job. I lost my license. I lost my family for a little while, and I had to work hard to get all that back. I lost everything I had, and some people they just haven't lost enough, and that's why they're still out there. And it's rough. I work with a lot of alcoholics and addicts, trying to help them get sober and stay sober, and it's sad because you get attached to these people, and seeing them go in and out is rough.
Yeah, man. So you're more like a counselor now. Is that what it is, or for those guys?
No, I mean that's just something that I do because I truly feel that the Lord's kept me here. My heart has stopped on multiple occasions. I've been shot at. I've been stabbed. I should have been dead 10 times over, but somehow or another, God kept me here, and I truly believe that the reason for that is I'm supposed to help others like me. And you know, I have a corporate 9 to 5 job. Uh, Helping people in sobriety is just something that I do in my personal time, and as well as the coaching is on top of that.
Man, wow, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that. Just coming back from that, then you making it this far, and I'm sure you're not done by any stretch. Looking at the stuff you're doing now, what was the first thing you opened your Krav Maga school first, or did you get into nutrition first, or how'd that go?
Well, no, I mean, I after I originally gotten sober, I just I started taking training a lot more serious, both fitness wise. I was always an athlete, so I always worked out. But once I got sober and I really knew that that part of my life was over, addicts have this weird thing. Like we get hyper focused on things, like we were hyper focused on whatever drug of choice we had. So, fitness was the main focus at that point. And then on top of it, I started taking self defense very, very seriously. I didn't open up my Krav Maga school until 2017.
Okay.
And that's when I opened my gym. My original gym was called Monkey Bar Gymnasium. I opened that and my Krav Maga school simultaneously. And that's where that part of the path started too.
Man, so you were jumping into everything, man. You were ready to just go. I like it, man.
Well, you know what it is? I was training at a bunch of different places and I saw friends of mine who owned schools and, I was like, I could do this. I could see myself doing this. And I remember I was working my corporate job and like, I was in like a board meeting one day and I'm sitting in the room going, this isn't me, man. I don't want to do this anymore, And that's when I made the decision that I'm going to open up my own gym. And I did. I opened up the gym in 2017 and everything was great. We did really well up until the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah.
The pandemic really did damage and I wound up having to sell my first gym. But I reopened again in a few years later and had that location open up until the fall of this year. So right now we're in the process of moving to another location. But I'm not done. I've got so much more training to do. I've got so many more people to coach.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it's a life's passion that I'm never going to give up on.
That's awesome. That is pretty cool. I love that. I love it. You have a lot of knowledge you can give someone, with your past and your art style also. Now, when what's the difference between Krav Maga and other arts? You know what I mean? Because Krav Maga, in my opinion, I don't know it. I'm just from what I've seen. It seems like it's more of just practical street fighting, self-defense kind of stuff. Is that correct or no?
Yeah, I mean it's I wouldn't consider it a martial art. It's a self-defense system.
Okay.
To me, I would consider it like the original mixed martial art. It's the gentleman that founded it, like I said earlier, Emil Lechtenfeld. He traveled around the world and took pieces of different places that he trained and created it. There's elements of wrestling and judo and boxing and karate and, that are all pieced together for this. And like for me, like I said, I take these other forms that I train in and I add them into our curriculum, heavily, my school is heavily into grappling. Our ground fighting is a big piece to what we do. But, I wouldn't consider it a martial art. I would say it's a self-defense system.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. And
Yeah.
from what I've seen, like I said before, it didn't look like a whole bunch of different martial arts that we've seen out there. You know what I mean? Katas here and there
Yes.
and that kind of stuff. But it looks like it's a real good system. And what I've seen, it looks really, really good. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, and I luckily I had some amazing instructors when I first started learning. The gentleman from Connecticut Krav Maga, his name was Tom Bacha. He was amazing. Guy was a beast. And then the gentleman that I trained under for the most part, his name is Britt Soden. He's the owner of Apex Krav Maga in Hamden, Connecticut. And Britt is just an absolute animal and just such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to all things self-defense and fighting. So, I was lucky to be trained underneath these gentlemen for a number of years to, start me off. And, there's, how do I say this? There's different levels. There's some Krav Maga out there that I've seen that I'm, huh,
Okay.
because where I've trained is at a certain intensity. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Okay. Now, do you see some of those guys out there, or do you see Krav Maga going more like starting to go into the martial arts area, quote unquote, just so they can make for more money. I would say you make a bigger business because everyone's in
Yeah,
the
I mean,
martial arts,
there's
the
definitely some
rankings.
schools out there that are trying to, because the name has become popular. I've seen people say, "Oh, we teach Krav Maga," and then I've gone to train there, and I'm like, "This isn't Krav Maga."
Okay,
You know,
gotcha.
this is definitely not what I've seen in my history. So, but it's just like anything else. BJJ is another one. You see people, jumping on that bandwagon because it's very successful nowadays. And, I've trained in some places where, again, I went, huh. But I've luckily trained at, my BJJ school that I train with is called Soulcraft, out of Hamden, Connecticut, is their headquarters. When I opened my gym, I brought in Soulcraft to teach at my gym. So we had Krav Maga and we had Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I did it selfishly so I could have BJJ in my own gym that I could train every single day if I wanted to,
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
But they're a legit school, Ed Berberich is the black belt that I trade under, and he's absolutely phenomenal. He's been my coach since 2017. I got nothing but great things to say about him. Uh, so, and then I also trained under a gentleman named Dan Semeraro in Sambo and catch wrestling. He's another gentleman who's just like an absolute Yoda of martial art. He's just got so much knowledge and experience, and just listening to him and just watching him coach, it just it's made me a better coach. Put it that way.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. One question I love asking, guys our age, 29 and above, our age, who's been in martial arts for a long time. We were blessed in a sense to see our martial arts come from something where it was to something different. You know what I mean? I'm not saying better or worse or whatever it is. I just know I look at some of the arts out there and I use this phrase watered down a lot. And you start seeing this, and I think that's to bring the more masses in. It's hey, nothing's wrong with making money. Make all the money you can. That's hey, as long as you're not jipping your students, you know what I mean? Be the wealthiest guy out there. That's cool. Now, do you see martial arts going more, watered down in essence to make it more palatable to get more students?
Yeah, unfortunately, I do.
Mm,
There's definitely places that I've seen where it seems to be watered down.
yeah,
And but look, I'm not here to judge anybody.
exactly. Yeah,
Look, if you want to spread the word of martial arts, God bless you. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Who am I to judge?
right.
I just know where to train, where it's legit, and where not to.
There
That's
you,
it.
there you go.
And I've been blessed that the places that I've gone and the people that I've trained with are legit. And I'm proud of that. So um, I'll just stick with the people that I know, and like you also got to look at the lineage, the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu school I train with, Soulcraft. The owner, his name's Brad Wolfson. He got his black belt under Marcio Samboski, who is one of the big first five from the Gracie family.
Okay.
The lineage goes back to, some of the greats. And, and it shows. It shows in the teaching, and who their students are and how good they are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I get it. I get it,
I
man.
just enjoy being 54 years old and being able to still get on the mat with
Yeah.
people that I highly, highly admire, and I learned some great stuff with every single class.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing, man. I enjoy that, and I look back, I look at now and I train differently than I did before. I still train hard, but I used to have a different mindset, coming from a 20-year-old guy who's basically, when you're a kid, you're out there fighting all day long, doing your thing. And then as you get older, when I'm on the mat now, I have more fun. I don't know if that makes sense or not. I just have more fun now. I'm not trying to beat anybody. I'm not letting anybody beat me. I'm just there to have fun. And it's just a great deal. I'm the guy you see on the mat talking too much and laughing too much. I talk a lot of smack.
Same. Same.
But it makes it fun, because you know your base. You know what I don't know if you've been in street fights before. You know what you can do in a street fight. It's not saying you're a badass or anything like that. I defend yourself. So when you go to these places, most schools I go to, I'm just trying to stay in shape. You know what I mean? I'm trying to go home uninjured and stay healthy.
I couldn't agree more. And to me, yeah, it is all about having fun, especially at this stage of my life. I'm 54 and I'm trying to stay in shape, and trying to run away from old age as fast as possible,
Yeah.
and it's funny you say street fights because like, I've been in, I don't know, and I don't even want to sound like I'm bragging, but I've been in a lot of street fights.
Yeah, I
And
feel you.
it's funny because after I started training later in life and taking it very seriously, I realized how much I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how I didn't get myself killed so early on in my life because it's just so much that I thought was right was so wrong,
Yeah.
and it's funny, because it's that I never was one of these guys, but I see these guys a lot. The ones who say like, "Look, man, when I see red, that guy."
Yeah.
They crack me up because I'm always like, "You're never gonna win,
Yeah.
never. You're never gonna beat a trained fighter,
Right.
ever."
Ever.
Okay,
Ever. Ever. I
it's
see
just
those
silly.
guys. I do
It's
laugh.
silly because I'm a pretty silly person. I
Yeah.
like to goof around a lot, and I don't take myself that seriously. So, I like to have fun. I'm very humble. I get, I get thrown around the mat by the younger guys a
It's
lot,
okay
and I'm
too.
okay with it.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it.
Yeah.
I'm very good at losing because of the martial arts training that I've had.
Exactly, 100%, man. It's 100%. I love the way you said that. That's good. That is so true, man. You see, but go back to what you said about see these guys, and what I found, and over my years, and I started when I was 8 years old in martial arts, doing the whole thing, and been on a mat somewhere till now, 29. I'm gonna stay that. I'm gonna keep saying that. Still on the
I'm
mat
gonna steal
somewhere.
that.
And I talked to a lot of guys, and most guys that I've seen, just my opinion, the ones that I've run into, that I've had my conversations with, the dicks are the ones who've never been into a real fight, and they talk a good game. And I'm like, because I used to have a school out in Illinois, and I would ask my students, how many of you guys been into a real fight? Maybe one or two hands go up, and I would say, hey, tell the class how that fight went. How was it? And most of the consensus was it was chaos. And I'm like, it is. A street fight is controlled chaos. You know what I mean? Because it's not going to happen like in class. He's going to throw a punch. You're going to do a parry. You're not going to dip. He's going to dip. It's just chaos, and
Yep.
it ain't fun. And I tell most guys, if you can avoid it, avoid it. Smile, walk on, walk away, go home, have a good bourbon when you get home. You made it home that day.
And that's the first lesson I give to any new student is, I'm teaching you de-escalation first,
Yes.
okay? But I want you to walk away. I don't want anyone to sit there and go, I've taken 5 or 6 Krav Maga classes with Chris and I'm ready to square up with somebody.
Man.
No, look, who cares if somebody calls you a pussy?
Yeah.
Okay? They don't know you. They're not going to affect your life. How many times I've been called a pussy and I just say, have a good night, have a
Yeah,
good night,
exactly.
because
Thanks for the
I
compliment.
got nothing to prove. I got nothing to prove. I
Right.
don't care, but I do want to go home to my family.
Yes.
And I don't want to get arrested. In the state of Connecticut, self-defense laws are not in our favor.
Really?
So therefore, I am going to avoid a street fight at all costs. And I tell my students the same thing. Walk away or run away because you don't know how many guys are around the corner,
Yes.
if they got a knife, if they've got a gun. These techniques that I'm teaching you are for last ditch. Like you have no other choice
Yes.
but to defend yourself.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Don't be the tough guy. You're not. Okay. I'm not, and I don't care how much training I got. I'm still not a tough guy.
Yeah, exactly.
End of story.
Being a tough guy doesn't do anything. It's the ego thing.
No.
I look at it. It's the ego
Right.
thing. I liked where you say that. You tell them, get home, man. You're trying to get home. You don't want to get into anything, man. And that's my philosophy. And I've said it a lot of times, man. I've bought because I like going to dive bars. It's just what I do, just to hang out with people, and I like that the people. You know what I mean?
I was a dive bar connoisseur, brother, in New York City on the Lower East
Exactly.
Side. That was my shit, man.
Exactly, man. But in the travels, it's so funny because in the travels I go around, I'll go to a lot of different places. Right now, I'm in the South, so I go down there, go to some of these little small bars, and my girls always, man, you talk to everybody. And I'm like, yeah, I like enjoying people, and my whole thing is, like I was getting into, I bought drinks for people who want to fight and everything else. I'm like, hey, whoa, it ain't that serious, man. Here, let me get you a drink, man. What are you drinking? And most of the guys are like, I don't want you a drink. I'm like, okay, but it's sitting here. And then sometimes they'll tell me, hey, man, I'm so sorry. I just had a bad day, right? It doesn't have to end up with us fighting on the ground, one of us getting hurt. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But anyway, that's a long-winded thing. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's just funny because that a similar situation happened when I have a partner with my school, Jason Scozafava, and he and I used to go to the what is it called? Buffalo Wild Wings. They
Oh
would
yeah,
show the UFC
yeah,
fights.
yeah.
They used to always show the fights there. And we'd sit up at the bar and we'd watch the fights. And like I remember one night we were there during the fights and there was a bunch of young bucks behind us and they were being rowdy and I don't give a shit,
Yeah, they're
let them have
enjoying
fun, you know what
themselves,
I'm
right?
saying? Right. Let him have a good time.
Yeah.
One of them kept banging into us. And then he started getting a little mouthy. Luckily, one of my students, this young lady, for years, and we call her the Hulk. This is how tough this young lady is. She happened to know these guys, and they were like trying to get, they were getting like their ego going and stuff like that. And she went over to the group of 6 guys and goes, "Hey, listen, those 2 guys right there, they own the Krav Maga school here in town." And they go, "Really?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "I highly suggest you keep walking." And they're like, "Okay." They came over. They're like, "Can we buy you guys drinks?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "We don't drink, but that's okay." So it's just funny because again, like me and my buddy still weren't going like, "Come on, let's go." We were like, "Have a good night,
Yeah,
gentlemen." You
right.
know?
And I think that might make scare some of those guys more than anything. When you're calm and you're smiling, the saying goes, "Beware of the calmest guy in the room," or something like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the guy you got to worry about.
Exactly. Well, they don't have to worry about me because I'm smiling and talking all the time. I'm having a good time. They're like, "Yeah, that's that smiley guy. He ain't got to worry about him."
But you got a great energy. Your energy in itself will diffuse any kind of
Oh, thanks, man.
situation that could be going the wrong way.
I hope so. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I'll take it. I'll take it,
No,
man.
I love it, man. I love it. You got great attitude, man. I love it.
Thanks, brother. Now, you said you have the cardio kickboxing center too, right?
Right.
Is that a
Right.
franchise or is that on standalone? Because I've seen some out there that are franchises around.
Well, it's something that is someday in the future I might turn it into a franchise.
Okay.
But like I said, my first gym was called Monkey Bar Gym, right? And something that I realized in owning this gym that I had the place open for 5 years and people were still calling me asking me if it was a gymnastics place
Oh,
for children,
really?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, the next concept that I open, like to be honest, people are stupid,
Yeah.
right?
Hey, you ain't
So
wrong.
you got to give them a name that it's like slapping them in the face with what you do.
Yeah.
So I think cardio kickboxing center, there's no confusion on what I'm doing in that gym.
Right. You got
Right.
it. You got it.
It's cardio kickboxing, man. We're not serving burgers. So yeah, so that's my fitness concept. My first gym, my most successful program was the cardio kickboxing. So when I reopened again, I decided that I was going to, focus on that.
Okay.
And it's very popular. So,
Yeah.
like I said, we're in the process of moving locations right now, but people love it. And the thing is, it's very, very popular with females, which is great because I use it as a tool to cross pollinate into self defense. Because
Ah, yeah.
we operate in the same gym, and a lot of times these ladies will be taking my class, and the difference between my cardio kickboxing is I'm using actual Krav Maga technique and form. So, it's not just kicking and punching. We're doing ground and pound, elbows, just everything that we could think of that is utilized in Krav Maga in this class. So when people take my cardio kickboxing classes, they start going, "Oh, wait a minute. I see them doing this in the Krav Maga classes after this.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try that," because now they're building confidence.
That's smart. Yeah.
So it's definitely been a great tool to cross pollinate both my programs. I've had so many people, dip their toe in the water, do 3 months with me in cardio kickboxing, and go, "Hey, I've been thinking about possibly taking one of your self defense classes. What do you think? Let's do it."
I think it's great.
So,
That's
yep,
cool, man.
absolutely.
That's really smart, though. You know what I mean? That's really smart. Now, do you do the nutrition and everything with that also? You write them programs for nutrition and everything?
Yeah, so my day job, I work for a global food company. We provide contract food service for hospitals, universities, stadiums, things
Oh
like
wow.
that.
Okay. Yeah.
And I've had a lifetime in the food industry. I'm also a chef, so when I do this, I teach people um, how to cook. I create an eating plan for them through what their likes, what their allergies are, and design it specific to them. I'll go to your house and clear out your cupboards and show you how to cook, and
Okay.
show you how to shop. Yeah, so I make it very, very personal. To me, if you're one of my clients and you're in, I'm in. There's
Okay.
nothing better to me than someone who's focused because I'm right there with you,
Right. That's cool. Wow.
step by step.
That's good stuff. Is there a certain, because as you know today they got all these different things. They have keto, carnivore, all these things. Is there a certain one you believe in the most, or you just say whatever works for you kind of thing?
Well, that's the thing. I've done all of them
Okay.
just so I could be versed in it. So if somebody asked me, "Hey, I want to try keto,"
Yeah.
well, I got something for you for keto. I've got a carnivore one for you. I've got, but yeah, there's one that I utilize the most, and to me, it's just clean eating.
Okay. Yeah.
Being very, very regiment.
Yeah.
I was even plant based for a few years, which I highly recommend to most people.
Okay.
Try it for a year. It kind of reset my body on a cellular level where, like, now I'm not bragging, but I have a hard time gaining weight at 54 years old.
Man, let me
Uh,
write that
it
down. I need
no,
that
for
one,
real.
man.
It did something to my body on a cellular level, just cutting out all animal products for over a year, and it helped me tremendously. I don't eat that way anymore, but for some folks that are having a problem and not getting the results they want, I suggest, have you tried plant-based eating? Why don't we try it for a while, see how your body reacts to it, and then from there, we can edit it or adjust wherever need.
Okay. So that's one you believe in the most. I would say believe in. You know what I mean? The one you think works the best in essence.
I think my clean eating one is just a staple. Yes.
Okay.
And then if you're not getting results, then we can try a plant-based variety of.
Okay. Now you believe in supplements and things like that, or you just believe, like you said, the
Yeah,
clean
I mean,
eating.
I
That's
take
it.
supplements,
Okay.
I've tried everything over the years, but I mean, I don't take a ton of stuff. I use creatine, which to me is, especially for a guy my age, helps me with muscle mass. As we get older, it's difficult to keep muscle mass on. That's as far, and I use a multivitamin. So that's pretty much it.
Okay, that's really good, man. That's it. I know I tried creatine for a while there, but one thing I found myself doing is I don't know if I was taking too much, but because it gets brings water to your muscles. So I was like feeling puffy. You know what I mean? And the guy
Yeah.
was like, "No,
Yeah.
cut it in half, and all that stuff." But I just gave up on it after a while.
Yeah, I mean, there's a loading phase with it. You do it for 2 weeks and then you can cut back. I mean, I always found that the folks that were getting puffy generally weren't doing enough cardio to burn that off. You know what I
Gotcha,
mean?
gotcha. Yeah, okay,
So,
yeah. I should think about that if I do it again. You know what I mean? Because I do a lot of cardio with the grappling and all that stuff. But I do like my workout
sure.
routine is every morning I get up. I have kettlebells and I do about an hour work of kettlebells and things like that. And then I'll
Nice.
get out to the gym somewhere. Wherever I am, I'll go to a gym and walk in and do some rolling and stuff like that. So, but I do that probably. I lift the kettlebells every day, but I do the grappling maybe 3-4 times a week. Depends on where I am. So
That's amazing.
okay,
So kettlebells is one of my focuses. My first gym was a functional fitness gym that we focused mostly on kettlebells.
okay,
The gentleman that trained me. So when I decided I was going to be a trainer and
yeah,
open up a gym,
yeah,
I had seen in my history of going to gyms on my own, people that call themselves trainers, a lot of like not very legit trainers.
okay,
Okay.
gotcha, gotcha.
People that, weren't in the best of shape and they're like drinking a Diet Coke, standing in front of their client,
Yeah.
like not being the picture of health. Like
Yeah.
to me, if you're going to be a trainer, you need to own it,
Yes. Yes.
And so being legitimate to me was something that was very, very important. So I had one of my old coaches told me about a guy named John Hines. And John Hines is a guy that you got to talk to.
John
He's
Hines.
the founder of he's the founder of Monkey Bar Gym, and like I said, to be a trainer, I felt like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I don't want to go take some online course.
Right.
I found the best trainer in the United States. I called him up. I said, hey, listen, how do I get involved with what you do? John Hines is not only one of the like amazing fitness people in this world. He's also a black belt. I know he trained with Hicks and Gracie.
Oh, wow.
And I know he trained with the Machados, from what I understand. But he's also like a world champion in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Wow.
So he designed this functional fitness program basically for jujitsu practitioners,
Okay,
and
yeah.
that's one of the reasons I wanted to go train with him. So I called him up one day and I said, hey, how do I get involved with you? And he said, tell me about your life. We talked for like an hour or two, and then he said, all right, love you. Come train with me in Wisconsin.
Wow.
So I started training his curriculum for about 5 or 6 months, and then I flew out to Wisconsin and I took an actual physical exam
Okay.
with him. And if I could pass his exam, then I was a certified trainer underneath him, and I could open up a monkey bar gym. And that's how
Wow.
I did it. 'Cause to me, I truly feel that you need to walk the walk if you're going to be a trainer. And in my
Absolutely.
gym, I had a rule. I need to be the fittest person in this gym. And I was. That was a rule, and I kept it. And, that was my first experience owning a gym. And, John Hines I owe him so much. The guy's amazing. But yeah, he's older than me. And the guy looks like he's 30 years old. He's
Wow.
amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. That's pretty awesome, man. Holy cow. But you know what? You're so right, though. Sometimes you go out there and you see some of these fitness places, and these guys aren't the most fit. You know what I mean? And I'm not judging anybody. I'm not knocking them, but how do you get students? But, it shows you people will listen to anybody.
Right. And to me, it's like, I don't know. The proof is to me what you're offering.
Yeah.
What your fitness classes look like, and what your self defense classes look like.
Yeah.
What's the intensity like?
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, it was something that was very, very important, and I'm very, very proud of myself that I went that route.
Yeah.
When I opened my first gym.
Wow. And your other ones, like you said before, you're going to open up something different. It's not going to have the monkey bar so they get the name on there so people know what you're doing.
Right, which I love the Monkey Bar Gym name,
Yeah.
but it was confusing to some people. And then when I decided to do my own concept, that's when I changed it to Cardio Kickboxing Center.
Yeah, that makes sense. Man, listen to the short time we've been together, man. Your whole life story, you going from on the streets to owning multiple businesses. Man, what's next for you? Because you also have a podcast that you deal with sobriety on there, correct?
Right. I actually just launched my new podcast on Monday.
Okay.
It's called the Sober Edge. I host it with my friend Steve. Steve, like I had mentioned earlier, is a gentleman who's in his 50s as well. He got sober. He lost 150 pounds. Started training jujitsu. He started competing in jujitsu this year. And the point of our podcast is to help other people like us get sober and stay sober, but show them a kinder, softer way to live. And how we do that is fitness and martial arts. So, we're trying to reach out to people, because the thing is about addicts is you got to replace that time period of all that time and hours that you were using. What are you going to replace that with now? So we're trying to show you a positive, healthy way to fill that time with now. And that's the purpose behind this podcast.
Man, that is awesome. The Sober's Edge, right? The Sober Edge.
The Sober Edge.
The Sober Edge. That's pretty cool. And where's your podcast at now, Rao? Right now?
It's in Connecticut.
Okay, based out of Connecticut. Gotcha, man. Dude, you've done everything, man. You're not even thinking about slowing down, man, at 29. You're not slowing down at all, brother.
Nah, man, I got a lot more to do. And, the goal is this. Like, eventually I don't want to work my corporate job anymore.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
there was a time when all I did was operate my gym. So I'm trying to get back into that again. I think the world has changed post pandemic. I think it's a good time to start gearing life back toward that.
Okay.
But I'm taking it step by step. I learned a few lessons opening my gym the first time around. I quit my corporate gig and I just did that. But I struggled for a few years.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Now I'm gonna continue to keep my corporate gig while I build my gym, and eventually it'll be just the gym and just the podcast, and then who knows what's next after that.
Man, dude, you're blowing my mind over here, man. This is no joke, man. Dude, listen, if anything I can help you with your podcast, anything I can help, man, because you have a message that I believe needs to be out there, man. Because I look at today and look at, our youth and some of the adults. It's like we're all running around lost to a certain point. I think we're missing certain things. And I think what you guys are going to be doing with that podcast, that's going to help so many people out there, brother. So many people, my friend.
Thank you, and I agree. And look, I don't want to be the old guy being like these young kids today,
Yeah.
but like the young kids today, man. There's a lot of them that just don't understand respect.
Yep.
They don't understand hard work. Like I actually just an hour before we got on the podcast, there was some young buck he called me grandpa because somebody made a post about Hazmat and his new fight. And they're like, oh, it's going to be a hugging match. So I asked the kid, I said, you train? 20 years. I looked at his page. He don't train. You know what I mean? And he called me grandpa. And it's like,
Oh, man.
kid, you got enough baby fat on you, like come down to the gym. Let's
Burn
let's
some of
train
that
for a
off. Let's
bit.
burn some of that fat off for you.
We'll we'll get you in shape, Tiger. All right.
There you go.
But the thing is, like when I was a younger man, like I would never speak to an older person.
That's
that
a
way.
different
You know what I mean?
generation, man. We would never say something like that, man. No way.
Absolutely not. I'd be like, sir, I apologize. You're right. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I don't know. We just raised differently.
Yep.
I'm an 80s kid,
So am I,
I'm
man.
from that Generation X, We
You
were
know it.
feral children.
We were feral,
You
man.
know? Absolutely. And I'm glad. But you know what? We had respect.
Yes.
And that's the problem today.
Yeah.
There's not enough respect.
You're 100% right, man. Because I'm out in stores or something. I'll hear some of these teenagers talking to their mom or whatever, talking to the cashier, and I'm like, man, I'd be smacked by everybody. Every parent in line would be smacking me if I said some of this stuff they were saying these
Oh
parents.
my God, you kidding me? My mom was the toughest woman I ever met. All right.
Oh, yeah.
She was raised in an orphanage,
Wow.
like she was the kind of woman that like if I fell down on the ground, she wasn't like, oh baby, are you okay?
Yeah.
She'd be like, Christopher, get off the ground, stop being a pussy, But she taught me respect.
Yes.
If she ever heard me speaking to somebody that way,
Oof.
forget about it. She'd be upside my head
In
so
a
quick.
heartbeat, man. In a heartbeat, man. I always say back in the day, man, because you're around the neighborhoods, if you got in trouble on the way home, you got spanked by the neighbors before you got to your parents and they spanked your ass. You know what I mean? It was like,
Absolutely.
man, we need more ass whippings out there. That's what we need nowadays, man. Excuse my French. I don't even know
They
French.
need to relax the laws on smacking kids around.
Right.
I'm kidding. Kidding.
No, I'll take up that banner. Some of these kids need to be smacked. But anyway. Oh,
Absolutely.
man. Brother,
No doubt.
this has been awesome, man. Hey, man, I know you got to run. I know you got a lot of stuff going on with yourself out there today, but hey, let everyone know how we can find you on all the different platforms, where they can find your businesses and everything.
Well, right now I have an Instagram page called The Sober Edge. And my YouTube channel right now is at The Sober Edge Podcast. That's where you can see all our episodes. Like I said, we just launched it on Monday. So we're going to be adding in a new episode every week. Hopefully, we're getting more content as time goes on. But and that's pretty much it. My Instagram page is Defensive Fighting Systems. And if anybody's ever in Connecticut and they want to come train Krav Maga and some grappling, please contact me. Reach out.
That's awesome, man, brother. I'm telling you, man, I would love to get out there, man, do some roll around and hit your bags a little bit. You see how I said I want to hit the bags? I don't want to get hit back, man. I don't want to get that.
Well,
man.
that's one good thing I've realized. I don't take headshots anymore, so I eased up on sparring. I'll do the grappling.
In a heartbeat.
Let me stick to that right now.
That's why I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, man. It's a good old man sport. We can just sit there and hug each other for a while, like the young guy said.
Exactly.
Oh, man,
Exactly.
brother, this has been awesome. Man, that's good stuff. Hey, guys, this has been Christopher Ryan. He owns, once again, the Defensive Fighting System out there in Connecticut at Cardio Kickboxing Center also. Guys, look for this man. He's a good man doing great things out there. And, brother, I appreciate you taking the time to come on today, and hopefully we can do this again sometime soon.
Absolutely. And when you're in the area, look me up, brother. Let's train. Let's roll.
Hey, sounds good, my brother. We'll talk soon.
All right, pal. Take it easy.
Care, brother.
Nice meeting you.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Lines on my face like cracks in the road. Still chasing fire through the years half slow. Weights on my back, sweating